Hello, today we're going to learn about acute, obtuse, and right angles. First, when we're given an angle is created when two rays meet at one point, known as my vertex. Here I have ray 1 and I have ray 2. The two rays meet at this point here, known as my vertex. So for example, if I have point A, that's my starting point to my ray A, B. And I also have ray A, C. They meet at the vertex known as A. Now I can write this angle and describe this angle as angle B, A, C, or angle C, A, B. Both descriptions and labels of this angle are correct. Notice my vertex A is the middle letter for both of this. This vertex here, known as A, should be that middle letter when you are describing your angle. Notice here we're going around from angle BAC or CAB. As long as that vertex is in the middle when you are describing your angle, both descriptions will be correct. Now it's important that you look at the letters around, look at the points, look at the labels of these rays to help you identify and describe the angles given to you. Now, there are three different types of angles. The first one we're going to talk about is a right angle. A right angle measures exactly 90 degrees. And notice in these three examples here of angles, each angle represents a 90-degree angle. And this box here, these boxes in all three of these angles represent that it forms exactly 90 degrees. And we can tell it's a right angle by looking at the markings and seeing this box representing that it is a right angle. That is what you need to look for. And I like to think of it forming a perfect L. And that L can be in any direction. It can be turned sideways like here, or it can be upside down in any way. However, that L always has that exact 90-degree angle forming a right angle. Now, just as a reminder, like we talked about in the previous slide, when you are labeling each of these angles, they're all right angles, but it's important that you understand how to identify them and describe them. So I could describe this right angle as angle FED or angle DEF. They are both correct, and notice E is my vertex. That's always in the middle description. Now here, I have angle, and I'll write this one here, angle PQR, or I can also say angle RQP. They are both correct, and I know they are correct because by looking at my picture, I see my vertex. At that vertex, it's labeled Q, and that's the middle letter in both of these descriptions. For this right angle here, I can also describe this right angle as angle EFG or GFE. Notice again, my vertex is F, and that is the middle letter in my description. Now, besides a right angle, we also have an acute angle. An acute angle measures less than 90 degrees. So imagine if you're holding your L, if you make an L with your fingers. Now this L, imagine it getting closer and closer together. Imagine these lines getting closer and closer together. All these lines represent that we have an acute angle. Now looking at these examples, imagine that L getting closer together. It's less than 90 degrees, representing that it is an acute angle. Now I like to use my right angle as kind of my measurement tool to help me recognize anything smaller is an acute angle. So these are all examples of acute angles. Notice the rays are getting much closer together, forming an acute angle that is less than 90 degrees. But they are not always going to get closer together. They might also get larger. And imagine that L expanding and getting larger and larger. That's going to lead us to our next example. We also have something called obtuse angles. Obtuse angles measures more than 90 degrees. So imagine that L that you have getting larger and larger and expanding. These are examples of an obtuse angle. Notice here, these angles are all larger than 90 degrees. If I was to label this angle, for example, as a reminder, we have angle GHI, or we could say IHG. Notice H is my vertex where the two rays meet. That forms my angle. Now, all of these angles that you have here can all be classified as either a right angle, an acute angle, or an obtuse angle. I encourage you to go back through this video. Start at obtuse angle. Now, pause this video and write down the notes. Now you have an acute angle. I encourage you to pause this video and write down the notes here. And your last angle, you have a right angle, measures exactly 90 degrees. I encourage you to pause this video and write down the examples of a right angle. And now this brings you back to acute, obtuse, and right angles. During today's activities, you will be given an angle and you have to classify it as either acute, obtuse, or right. I encourage you to refer back to this video at any time to help you with today's assignments.